Recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week, I have a very special guest. It's someone I've known for literally my entire life. Someone who's responsible for teaching me more life lessons than pretty much anyone. I mean, we're talking about everything from potty training to balancing a checkbook to figuring out that weird Dewey Decimal System at the library. Yeah, I know. I'm aging myself here. I don't care. But I don't know anyone who's sported more trendy hairstyles and fashionable business attire than this woman. You know what I mean? Like those super awesome shoulder pad outfits or dress suits from the 80s. So amazing. She could be super positive and happy one minute and then screaming obscenities while watching the Seahawks the next minute. But she's also one of the hardest working, smartest individuals that I've ever known. So it is my pleasure to introduce to the show the most important female in my life, the one who's essentially responsible for keeping our entire family sane for all these years, my mother, the one and only Mrs. Tina Matlock. All right, Mom. Hey, it's good to have you on the show. So how was the drive over here?
It was good. Not too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it was long. 1,500 miles is a long way to go with your dad in the truck and Killian.
And Killian. How'd Killian handle the trip?
He did a lot better than I thought.
Killian's the dog.
Yeah, our toy poodle.
Yeah, don't know what we're talking about.
He's almost 12 years old, and he's never really been on a long car trip, so we didn't really know how it was going to go. But
he behaved himself? He didn't poop in the car or anything like that? That's good. That's good. Yeah, so you look well rested. How's retirement treating you these days?
Great. I love retirement.
Remember you were scared about like retiring? You're like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this.
No, I don't know where you got that. I have always wanted, well, once I made up my mind to retire, then I thought I would like retirement, and I have. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys seem to be having a lot of fun traveling around and all that good stuff. So now you've always you look pretty good, nice and presentable today. Nice, not as professional as you used to be, but that's good because you're retired. You can be laid back and but you know you've always looked pretty good amongst your peers. You're kind of like the Stacy's mom of my friends. Are you aware of that song Stacy's Mom?
No.
How about the song Mrs. Robinson?
Yeah.
You know, like I've had a few of my friends we'd leave the house and they'd be like, "Dude, your mom's kind of hot." And I'm like, "Okay, this is awkward." So, you know, how do you feel about that? Like, it's kind of weird, but it's kind of flattering, right? To like hear things like that.
I guess I would think it's more flattering. I mean, I at this age, I just I kind of am just going for being presentable, you know.
I remember like in the later years, we'd have friends come over and Ryan would just flat out like just be like hitting on you in a friendly way, but it'd be really funny like. But first things first, I do want to address the voice that I do when I talk about you. You know the one like, "You goddamn kids! I swear to God, you'll be the death of me." People actually think that is the voice of like how you actually sound. Like people that don't know you, and I just want to like start off by saying that's not how you sound. This is how you sound.
Yeah,
right here, how you're
this
talking.
is how I sound. So I don't know where that came from.
Well, I'll tell you exactly where that came from. That was like a combination of you and your brothers having fun with your mom.
Oh, right.
And we adopted that.
They were doing my mom.
Yes.
And so you're doing basically your grandmother.
Yes. So like that's why we adopted that. That's how that voice became, because it's just more funny. Like, you know,
well, right.
A caricature is like a lot more fun to do.
I don't know how you would, imitate this sexy voice that I really have.
You're like, look at just a regular Jessica Rabbit over there.
Right. But, what you do is funny as hell. I think I really think it's funny when you do it. It always sends me into giggles every time you do my voice.
I swear to God, you damn kids.
No, and that's another thing. Yeah. I'm always like swearing.
Yeah, you're like angry.
Yeah, and I'm always yelling.
You're never really angry. You're always like laughing.
Yeah, so it's
come on. It's
wow.
It's way more funny to do it that way.
Okay.
You know? But that brings me to, I want to talk a little bit about your childhood and your background. So you are actually from the small town of New London, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
How big was that city? How big is that city?
Well,
It's grown since, but like...
I think when I lived there, it was maybe 5,200 people. And, I haven't really looked at the population, but I would doubt if it's over, I don't know, 7,000 people.
Wow.
I think it stayed very similar in growth.
Well, how many people were in your graduating class?
I should know this, but it was it was maybe 250.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think something like that.
I think mine was 920.
Yeah. There was just one high school, and so it was a pretty small class.
So you guys had a big family, compared to me, you, Andy, and Dad. So like, how many brothers and sisters did you have? And I love how this all works. It's just so funny how the boys are T and the girls are C, and so you have starting at the oldest to oldest to youngest.
Yeah, there were 7 of us. So it was Terry, Todd, Tina, Cindy, Tim, Ted, Tom. And
jeez.
The reason, but both the girls were really C's.
Right.
I'm Christine, but then for some reason they just nicknamed me Tina, because that is a nickname of Christine. Christine is kind of short for Christina.
Right.
And then it was Cindy. Well, then they kept having boys, and they kept naming them T's. So
what was the deal with that?
I don't know why
just
they
something
didn't.
Fun to do back then, like just keep.
Why they kept having kids?
I know. I mean, just why they kept having kids and then naming them T's.
I don't know. They just kept going with it. My mom used to make the joke, with Terry, Todd, Tim, Ted, Tom. If she had another boy, she'd have to name him Tarzan.
Oh,
that's what her big joke was.
I wonder if she would have actually done that.
I don't know.
That'd have been pretty awesome.
Probably
Maybe
not.
She should have kept trying, because that would have been like endless entertainment. Some of those stories that you have, the nicknames of your parents.
Oh, right. Their real names are Norman and Margaret.
But nobody calls them Norman and Margaret.
It was Dub and Muggs.
Where did they get these names?
I should know that.
You don't even know? This is such a weird,
I think
they're great nicknames, by the way.
My dad's nickname, I believe, came from childhood, where his younger sister couldn't say Norman and started calling him Dub.
Those are great nicknames.
Muggs is kind of like Margaret, I don't know.
Muggs, Dub and Muggs. It's so great.
That is terrible that I don't even know the origin of their nicknames.
We'll have to do an update on that.
Yeah.
But I always this is one of my, I loved that story that you always used to tell about how you had a curfew set and you were out late and then you came home. So you got to explain that. That's a great story. And that's part of the reason when we started doing that voice.
Oh, yeah. When all of us kids were in high school and we'd have a curfew, and they were pretty lenient with the curfew. I mean, it would be maybe midnight. And so if you came home after curfew, especially if it was quite a bit after curfew, and you'd walk in the house and it would be dark and you'd think, oh, I'm getting away with this.
You're like, this is awesome. I'm just going to go right up the stairs.
Yeah. But then, you walk into the living room and you see this little red ember. And that was my mom sitting there in the dark smoking a cigarette.
It's like a horror movie.
And then she'd go, "Where have you been?"
I love the voice. I always love the voice. It's like, "Where have you been?" You're just like frightened. You're like, "Oh Jesus!"
It was
oh God!
Scare the living bejesus out of you. So.
Did you ever get punished, or did she just yell at you or something?
No, they just yell. I mean, I don't ever really remember being grounded.
Yeah.
I was, for the most part, a pretty good kid. I didn't get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Well, your family, they're all very diverse too, like as far as the different characters like in your family. It's kind of like the Breakfast Club. You have you remember that old movie, The Breakfast Club? The athletes, and it's like Terry and Ted, and you know, the spiritual guy Tom, and he could be the crazy guy too. So like, and then you have the funny comedian, the clown, Uncle Tim. Was he always like that, by the way?
Yes.
God, he's just so funny, man. Like,
I mean, that's why Tim and I were always close.
So funny,
because he just could always make me laugh, and we'd sit around watching TV, and if a commercial came on, we'd make fun of them. That was just we were always looking for the funny.
Got to have him on the show one of these days.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
And then there's Uncle Todd. He's kind of like the music guy. You said that Terry and Todd were like the two music guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and let's not forget about Sister Cindy. And what was she like growing up? She was like really pretty. I always see like pictures of Cindy, and she's like super pretty. Your whole family's like really good looking. Like if you like look at the those old pictures and stuff, it looks like one of those TV shows back from like the 50s and 60s. You're like, it's so funny like to see all the pictures. But
Cindy was very talented. She was very creative. She had things that I didn't have. Like she could just, I don't know, she was self-taught in sewing, and she was very artistic, where she could draw nice, and she was a good writer, and she was just very artistic.
It's funny you say that, because I remember this one time you busted out a bunch of these old letters, and you're like, would you like to look at some of these? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I started reading through it, and yeah, she was like writing all these different stories, or like, just these letters to you. And one of them, I'll never forget it, because I never forget music, and especially what people like as far as music. But she was like, yeah, this new song came out. It was like, it's Poetry Man by Phoebe Snow, and like I always, like, every time I hear that song now, I think of like her listening to that song, and like how it was a new song. So they would be like 1975 or something like that when she's like writing this letter.
Yeah.
So that always reminds me of her. But so she ended up passing away. What year did she end up passing away?
Yeah, that was 1983.
83.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that day too, because like we were camping, and like and it was pitch dark out, and like didn't grandma like found us somehow? It was so terrible, and I just remember like it was a horrible experience. But
well, I can talk about it a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I just want to it's okay. It's been a while since this has happened. So,
it's been since 1983. Cindy always had depression problems, and she had problems with alcohol, and she was having trouble with her marriage. And so anyway, it was the July 4th weekend, and you and me and Dad and Andy were going to go camping in Oregon and meet up with Dad's sister and her husband. So you're only 7 and Andy's only 2.
I'm not even joking. I remember that like so well, surprisingly, because it was just so horrifying.
Yeah. So
I'd never really seen you like go cry like that.
We had this truck with kind of like a camper
that
shell,
awesome
kind
old
of
truck.
Weird.
Yeah,
it was ghetto. This camper shell, and we had fried chicken, and we had our food, and it was a long drive there. And when we got there, it was dark, and so we didn't even unpack the truck. And Dad, sat up and was sitting there drinking with his sister and brother, and I was in the truck sleeping with you guys. And so it's like maybe 1 a.m, and this place we were staying as a campground, it was so dark. If you put your hand in front of your face, you couldn't even see it.
That's why I thought it was so amazing that you guys actually were found by.
This is like, just a weird campground, didn't have a lot of amenities or anything.
Right. And this isn't like, today, like you just, send them a text like, hey, this is so messed up. Like, there's no way to communicate with people. Right. There's no pagers.
No one had a cell phone. Yeah. And so anyway, my sister ends up committing suicide, and then, so my brother Ted was staying at our house. Now he was living in, Wisconsin at the time, but he was out doing some Army Reserve stuff at Fort Lewis.
Okay.
So because we were going to be gone, and I think a lot of people on the base were going to be gone, he came and was staying at our house. And so when he gets the phone call, because it comes in on the landline, and then he answers it and finds out what's going on, he has to figure out how to contact us. And he's like, he just knows we're going camping in Oregon.
Oh,
you don't tell people stuff.
Yeah.
And so he goes to our neighbor, Carolyn, my friend, because he figures maybe she will be able to help him figure out where we are.
Yeah.
And so she comes over and looks at our address book, and she knows to call Lee's mom.
Wow.
And she's not close to where we are. So she gets up in the middle of the night with her husband, and they drive to this campground. They knew where we were going though, luckily.
Yeah.
And then they drive around this dark campground looking for her daughter's vehicle because she wouldn't know what our vehicle looked like. We had just purchased it. So she's looking, and then they finally find us, and then they knock on the door, because by then Dad was sleeping. So
it's terrible.
When they tell us, he's now not in any position to drive. So we have to just kind of, lay there in the middle of the night so he can sleep, and so we can drive right back. So yeah, it was a nightmare.
Oh, good. It's a nice, good trip. Nice story here to start out the podcast with. No,
I know. It was a whole,
yeah,
it was
awful.
Just, that really was an event that just changed our entire family from then on. You have kind of, I think of that from before and after. It really just shaped my personality.
Yeah, I imagine. Jesus. So I always liked hearing the stories of, staying on the same topic of your family, your brothers. I mean, God, these guys, when we last went back, they were telling all these stories about like how they got in these just massive fights. These guys would always get in fights.
Yeah.
Like, was it, I mean, it wasn't just with each other, and they got in legendary fights with each other, but they would get in like big bar fights. Like they're like, last time I was talking to, who was it? Is it Ted, or is it Terry, or maybe it was all of them? They were all talking about like this big fight they had in Denver.
Oh yeah.
And like they just walk into some bar, like all these guys, and like you don't know what bar you're walking into. Like if you're just out of town, like it could be a bunch of regulars. Like I mean, I know if like a bunch of guys walked into like one of the bars that I go to, like it'd be on. Like And then one of them, was it Tim, or one of the guys said like, yeah, like I looked up and like one of my brother's bodies flew by me, and like he's like, I'm diving for cover, and like.
Well, luckily I wasn't there to witness this. I just have to hear about it. This was a year.
These guys are so funny.
This was actually, I remember when this was, because it was a year after Cindy died. So it was 1984. And my brother Terry was living in Aurora, which is a suburb of Denver. And so we went out there for a week, all of us kids, to go. So Dad didn't go with me, and we went there for a week to just kind of hang out. And we went skiing and at Aspen, and we did a lot.
So you were actually in town. You just didn't go to the bar,
right? What happened that night is we had all gone out to dinner.
Oh, that's great.
We had this nice dinner. You have a couple drinks with dinner.
Yeah.
And then you come home, and at that.
Well, you do. Well, not the young guys that want to keep partying.
Terry's wife and I, we're like, they're talking about going out to the bar now after we come home, and I'm just like, no, I don't. No, we'll stay here.
It's probably a good thing, right?
Yeah, but maybe I could have stopped.
Diffused
the
situation.
They come home really late, and they open the door, and Tom's got a bloody face, and it's just like, oh God, geez, what happened? And it was just a fiasco. There's some fight started at the bar. Probably.
I do like when we're talking about your old brothers, and everyone's from Wisconsin. You're starting to slip right into. Am I? Oh yeah, don't you know? Oh, absolutely. No. Oh yeah, no. No, but I just remember this one time we went back to visit Grandma and Grandpa, and I know there's like something. It was like a picture that was like leaned up against the wall, and I think I lifted up the picture, and there was this giant hole like in the wall. But I'm like, what a weird place to have a hole in the wall. Yeah. And then, do you remember that story about how it got there?
Yeah.
When Ted, he said like his arm was like in a sling or something like that.
Ted and Tom got in an argument. I believe it was that.
It's always Tom.
Ted had loaned Tom some money, and Tom was over at the house, and Ted said, hey, I really need that money back. And then they proceed to get, Ted has a broken arm from
But Ted is a big dude too. It's not like, he's definitely the biggest guy. Like
he has a broken arm from some other, whatever happened. And then they start.
He's one of those guys that I still wouldn't mess with if he had like a broken arm. Yeah. Like he'd probably do some damage to you.
This is what it is, I think, is that when they started getting in an argument, then Tom thought, oh, this is my one time I might be able to beat the crap out of Ted.
I got a handicap on this motherfucker.
Yeah. So then they start, so I don't know who punched a hole in the wall, but that was...
No. So Ted told me this. he hit him and he got off balance and he fell back and his shoulder had went into the wall.
Oh.
So he was pinned up against the wall and he couldn't move. So he's just getting like punched in the face.
Yeah.
And he goes, you motherfucker. He's like, and he couldn't move because his arm was like.
Yeah. But
so he did. He got the better of him at that time. Yeah. So
this is just one of many. Growing up, there was always somebody fighting, and it wasn't just verbal. It was like a lot of just pounding on each other. Even
testosterone.
Even Cindy and I would get into it. We'd argue, and then before you know it, we'd be beating on each other.
Well, you have that many people living in a household together. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be. Anybody, that many people of anybody is going to be. There's going to be. It's
stuff. Kind of funny. There was a lot of fighting and yelling, but there wasn't really, there wasn't abuse by my dad or my mom or anything.
You guys were abusing each other enough. Your dad didn't have to lay down the
We were just a very active family, and
sounds like it.
When if you'd go over to someone else's house and they'd be all real
sophisticated,
and quiet. It'd be
Dad smoking a pipe and
this is weird,
So speaking of Grandpa Dub, he was originally a farmer.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, and then
a dairy farmer. His father was also a dairy farmer.
So he went from being a dairy farmer to buying a Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Because I remember some of my earliest memories are going back and they still had the Dairy Queen at that time. When did he actually sell that thing?
Well, I think he sold it when he was maybe 52. And he had it for 20 years.
Wow.
And he's 90 now, so.
That's crazy. And he's still doing good.
Oh, yeah.
He's amazing.
He's doing really well.
Yeah, that's awesome,
He is
man.
still sharp mentally, and he's physically good. He says to me, Tina, I don't even have any aches and pains. Jeez.
Well, maybe I can retire at 52.
Yeah,
what did he say? He retired at what?
52?
That's crazy.
He sold the Dairy Queen when he was 52.
He's almost lived half of his life.
Yeah. But the first part of his life, he worked
really
hard.
And he's like one of those guys that's he's awesome. Like he could fix anything.
Yeah.
Didn't he he built his house and stuff?
A lot of it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, he's very, very handy and talented.
That Dairy Queen was not just a regular kind of Dairy Queen that you just drive by. That was right on the river, next to a bridge. And he built a walkway and a dock so people on their boat can stop on the river and come up and that's amazing.
They got boating traffic, and he was right on the corner of the highway that ran through town. So at that time, you had to go right past the Dairy Queen to get from this town to that town. Now they have a highway bypass. But when he was there, he got a lot of traffic of just people passing by.
Well, yeah, you said they had celebrities and stuff Bart Starr came by and stuff.
Bart
and I was
Starr
that's awesome.
Of the Packers
Heck yeah,
came
that's
to
cool.
the Dairy Queen when I was working there.
And everybody worked there, right? The whole family worked there, right?
It was a pat job for all of us. There's no doubt. It was awesome.
So great.
Because working in a Dairy Queen in a small town, most of the people that come to the window.
Did you ever get your friends free stuff?
Not really that often. Once in a while.
But you guys got free stuff.
Yeah. I'd go swimming and then, ride my bike to the Dairy Queen and walk in the back door and just grab whatever I wanted.
So awesome.
It was pretty. It was pretty awesome.
And I always seeing the old photos of that place. They are so great. You get to tell what era it is. You said he owned it for 20 years.
Yeah.
So there's that picture of him on the scooter thing. I don't know what that is.
Oh yeah, the dilly wagon.
The dilly wagon. But and it's funny. He's all dressed up, kind of funny and stuff. And then there's pictures.
Well, that was kind of a special event. That was some midnight madness thing where everyone goes around wearing pajamas or something.
It's awesome. And then you see big old bell bottoms, and I'm like, well, that's the 70s.
Yeah,
so great. And then so I've always been really into history and other people's lives, especially, those that I have a connection to. This is, partially why I'm doing this podcast. I'm genuinely fascinated with the people around me. And when we'd go back to visit Grandma and Grandpa and all the relatives and everything, you'd take me around to all these places. You're so here's where I used to, just like you were saying. You're we used to ride my bike over to here and do this over here and blah, blah. And I'm whoa. And I'm trying to envision these places back then. And there was this one place. Where did you take me? It was a rock formation of some sort of.
Oh yeah, it was called Poppy's Rock.
It was kind of cool.
It was very cool. It's I think it's privately owned by a university now
Oh, wow.
for research. But when I was growing up, it was just open, and
We used to drink beers out there and have
Yeah.
big old ragers.
Cindy and I would ride our bikes out there and bring like a sack lunch, and there were these big flat rocks. Some of them weren't real flat,
Right,
but
right.
they were great.
It's definitely cool.
They were great for climbing on, and you could just
Heck yeah.
go out there for the day, and it was just, it was out in the country, and then you could just find your little special little place. We found this little hole that kind of went in, and it was almost like a cave. We were surrounded by pine trees, and it was all cool in there, and the floor was just all pine needles, and then it was, on a hot summer day, it was all cool, and we just called it our special room, and so that was really, that's a really special
so like that,
memory.
just stuff like that. The way you paint pictures is like really cool. But I remember you also took us to one of those, one of the, like the baseball field, and you're talking, you're like, yeah, Terry used to sit out here, and you could just like hear him like yelling, screaming at people, and I'm like, all I can think about it is like Terry as like John McEnroe, like God damn, like swearing at people and stuff, and he was like so passionate about sports. You said
Terry was pretty much the most natural athlete of the family. He was just, if you watched him bowl, he has this just beautiful, smooth delivery. He's
always the most hyper and like high strung guy too. Like,
and he was a great baseball player. He could really throw. He used to play center field, and he could throw the ball from center field to home plate, and he could hit really well and run really fast. He was small and compact, and but Terry had a temper. So he played Legion ball out at Hatton Park Stadium. And I'd go and watch a game, and there'd be Terry striking out, and he'd get all mad, and he'd throw his helmet down and kick it all the way out to center field.
In sports, we like to call that passionate.
Or get kicked out of the game, and it was just like...
Get kicked out?
You'd look around like, oh my God.
He really was like, he's John McEnroe before John McEnroe.
Yeah.
That's great.
He definitely had a temper.
So... going back to visit, obviously, like that's a big part of. I mean, we went back there, not all the time, but we'd go back there every year or two or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was back when flying was fun. Remember, when flying was fun?
Uh-huh.
Like you could actually walk the person to the terminal,
right,
and see them off.
Yeah.
Like that's only in movies now. You can't do that. Like,
right.
I just remember one of my most fond memories of Grandma is like that one time that we were leaving, and she was waving to us, and she saw us in the window. We were waving at her. She was running from window to window, waving to us, and I was like, oh, I love that. That was so great.
I know.
That was so great.
Yeah.
And Grandpa had the house that he built, like as you mentioned, and it was all tucked away in the woods. Remember, like you were like really happy that I filmed the last days of the house. I think it was like 2004 or something like that. And but he also had the cottage on the river.
Yeah.
He had the cabin for hunting. He had the cottage on the river. They had a couple different boats, and God, it's just so. I remember Dad saying like, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, like meeting your mom and the brothers and their family, because like Dad's family was like chaotic, right? Like it was like it was like a mess, and like just meeting you guys and all stable, and you get in fights and stuff, like, but that's normal, like your family compared to Dad's family is like very
we really
tame.
When I meet other people, I realize, oh wow, we really did have an idyllic childhood where I had a mother and father that never were divorced. We went to church every Sunday. We went to a parochial Lutheran grade school.
Were you a good student?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Straight
was.
A's?
No, I was not. Straight A's?
How about your sister? Was she? Who's a better student?
Cindy was smart, but Cindy was the type that didn't care.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So Cindy didn't always get the best grades.
Gotcha. Okay.
So.
And then you did go to school with some famous, later became one of their children became famous in high school. Like you went to school with Rick and Teresa.
Oh yeah.
So
Rick
I
and
don't know if you want to
Teresa.
talk about Rick and Teresa, but like you said that like they're some of your oldest friends.
Yeah.
Because you went to high school with them.
Yeah.
And
yeah, Rick and Teresa Kaepernick. Rick went to my grade school, so I knew Rick from first grade on.
Wow.
And Oh, I do like to tell the little story that Rick was my first kiss.
That's great.
This one of those innocent.
And you said the guy would he became like a stud athlete, right?
Right. Rick was very good. He was an all-around, played all the sports, and he was just a great athlete. And then Teresa, I really met her when I got to junior high, and it wasn't until, high school that we became pretty close friends, So, and then they started dating. They were dating all through high school, like maybe, I don't know if it was freshman year or sophomore year, but they started dating sophomore year maybe. And then they were dating all through high school, and they're still married.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I remember when you were like, yeah, they adopted this little baby, and then I think who came? Did we go over to their place first, or they came over to our place? I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I was it was like this little baby.
I think they came to our house first.
We have a picture
for a
of
visit. Yeah,
he's like a little baby
when he was just very young.
And I'm like, this kid's gonna be like a.
And then
polarizing figure in the future, and he's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. He's going to be,
We were at their house when they were living in Turlock, California, on our way to Disneyland. We stopped to see them.
That had to be 93, 92, or something. I can't remember. But I remember on that trip, that was when I started getting into Dan Marino. I was watching all Dan Marino stuff, and I remember Rick going you should be quarterback. Are you? And I'm like, and now I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, he told that to his son, and I was like, holy shit, maybe I should have. And then after high school, you decided to take a trip to Arizona. Did you take a trip out here first, or did you just flat out move?
Oh, well, the way that turned out is my friend Leah, her family moved to Arizona our junior year, and we were really good friends.
Oh,
and
wow.
then we stayed in contact through my whole senior year.
Were you writing letters and calling?
Yeah. And so my plan.
She's like, Tina, you won't even believe this. I don't even have to shovel snow out here.
Yeah. Well, what happened is, I was going to go to Hawaii. My friend Jenny and I had this wild dream that we were going to go to Hawaii after graduation, and we'll just go camp on the beach and get a job and whatever. That was the extent of our plan. So I'm saving my money because I think, I want to travel, and this is where I want to go, and I'm saving my money, and Jenny is buying clothes and apparently not really saving money. And so it didn't look like she was really being very serious about this. And so when Leah told me that her parents and her sister were going to be driving back to New London for a visit, and then they were going to be driving back, of course, there'd be room in the car for me. So if I wanted to come out for a visit, I could do it free. So I jumped on the chance.
Yeah, got it.
Because I thought, well, Phoenix, next best thing to Hawaii, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. So how did you end up running into Dad? Where was this? Where did this happen? I want to hear the story.
Okay, so it took us a couple days to drive, on the way to Phoenix. And, so we drove to, Leah was living with her parents at the time.
Okay.
So we arrive, and unbeknownst to me, Leah has set up a blind date with me. And that was Dad.
Oh.
And so the day I arrive, she's made, I've been on the road. My hair's greasy, I'm like, and I just want to see Leah and reminisce, and I'm technically still dating a guy from back home.
Oh boy, they always are. They always are.
And so she sets up this blind date, and off we go to water skiing on Lake Pleasant, and so that was different, but.
That was different?
Well, I mean, the
situation.
Yeah, the situation.
Gotcha.
I'd never been on a blind date in my life.
So what were your first impressions of Dad?
Well, wow.
Because he was right out of the Marines and shit, right?
Yes. I mean, when I got to Phoenix, it was August, and I think he'd just gotten out of the Marines in April, and his hair was still really short, so I didn't realize when I first saw him that he was...
You just thought it was the Arizona cut?
Yeah.
Oh, you got your summer cut going on over here?
My first thought was he was some athlete because he was very buff and built and had the short hair. I had
kind of like he is now.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding, Dad. No, but it's funny because you guys are so much like, and even Dad said this. You guys are like that song, that Paula Abdul song, opposites attract.
Oh, no
I mean,
doubt.
not at first, probably. I've seen the old pictures of you guys. You guys are like very like good looking people that should have been together. But it's funny because like he smokes, you don't. You're spiritual, he's not. You're cold, he's hot. He loves to drink, you're like, I'll have one.
Yeah.
You're like, you go to bed early, he's a night owl.
Oh, I know. You could just go on and on.
I know.
There's a million reasons where we're opposites.
You like things quiet. Okay, can you turn the music down? Okay, I've had enough. Just can you turn that down? And Dad's like, God, I always wanted to turn down the goddamn music. And like, and you save money, he blows it. It's like, it's just funny. It's like the list can go on and on and on.
I know. And I don't know why that is, that opposites attract.
It is funny though. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's so funny how opposite you guys are, and it works because you guys are like, you guys are still together.
Not even personality-wise, but our families and our upbringing.
Yes.
Look at how
crazy.
His family came from a very broken family. He didn't have any stability. He never went to one school more than 1 year, and everything about that.
I also love one of my favorite stories is how you said in Wisconsin, the drinking age was 18.
Yeah.
And then you moved to Arizona, and then the drinking age is 19.
Yeah.
And then when you finally moved to Washington, then it was 21.
Yeah.
So you're always like right behind.
I'm always in a state of. And
it's so funny.
And Dad is 4 years older than me, so he could get in the bar. And
so hilarious.
So when you're that age, that's where you go to have fun. So
how long were you guys here, and why did you move?
Well, probably total, I was only in Arizona about a year. I mean, I moved here in August of 1973.
Okay.
And then, I got a job, a couple jobs, and then met Dad, that first day, and then we started dating, and then we were an item, but then he ended up moving to Tucson to
Don't ever let your girlfriend go on vacation, by the way. Just note to everybody else out there listening.
He moves to Tucson for a job, and then he's not good at writing me. I don't even have a telephone.
What, Dad isn't? You must be talking about a wrong person.
The only way, I would literally go to the mailbox and look for a letter from him.
It's like the old days, like
right. I mean, just think about how hard it was back then.
It's crazy. It's not like sending a text.
To stay in communication. Yeah. You had to write a letter. And I didn't have a phone. I had to go to work to use the payphone. It was terrible.
Jeez.
So after a couple months of that, I was just too lonely and missed him. And I decided I'll move to Tucson. So I moved there. Then he got hurt on the job. So we weren't there very long because he got hurt and he was recuperating. And then he just started thinking, maybe we should move up to Washington State. That his dad lived there, and he said, I want to get back into hunting, fishing. I'm getting sick of all this hot weather.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
And we didn't really have much going on. I didn't, I wasn't in Tucson long enough to even get a job, so we decided let's move to Washington, and I was all for it because I was like, yay, more travel.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Just more bucket list for you, more states to conquer, and so like. And it's funny because like I always would say this, like, the air conditioning wasn't exactly what it is today. Like, you have swamp coolers and stuff like that, and air conditioning, it's around, but it's not like it is now. Like you walk into places and people are literally putting on coats.
Yeah.
And how did you adjust to the weather in Seattle? So like it's drastically different than both like Wisconsin and here.
Well, when we moved up, it was April, and we moved to Centralia because that's where his dad was living. And Centralia, not much going on there for a city, Mm-hmm. But yes, it was a shock for me. Wisconsin weather, but then Phoenix and Tucson is so sunny and warm. By the time April we moved, it was already really hot, 90 degrees.
Oh, gotcha.
Then we move up to Centralia, and I think when we moved, I seem to remember it was cloudy and rainy for 3 solid weeks and dark.
Yeah.
And I think not just the rain, but how dark it is was the hardest thing.
That's what I always tell people. I go, it's not the rain. Like the rain, it rains a lot everywhere. In the Seattle rain is kind of like drizzly, kind of, it's just kind of drizzly.
Yeah.
It's the dark,
Yes.
low gray clouds.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's darkness all the time.
And in Wisconsin in the winter, it might be cold, but it can be sunny, and
Right.
the sun is shining on the snow, so it's
Yeah.
very bright.
Right.
A lot of times they do have cloudy days, but generally you have a lot more light in the winter than Washington. So not only was I lonely for my family, by this point I'm starting to get really homesick.
Yeah.
And it's rainy and cold, and so yeah, I did go through a state of, wow, geez, I don't like it here at all.
But the summers are awesome. Summers are really long in Seattle, which is weird because like it's hard to explain that to people. They're like, yeah, it could be like almost 10 o'clock at night and the sun is out. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like beautiful. It's raining all year, so it's
Right.
like everything's green and like
yeah.
lush, like big trees
And
everywhere.
we're just so happy to have sunshine. Everyone's like in a
yeah.
good mood.
Oh yeah,
Like,
exactly.
oh, the sun
Summers,
is out.
people come alive. And,
Yeah.
So when you turned 21, then you had me.
Yeah.
And I was a pretty big baby, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I had you, I had just turned
literally, big
21, and then on January 19th, and then February 5th, you were born. So, yep, right around the corner, you were born. Yep, and you were 10 pounds, 22 and a half inches long. So,
What do you know what time of the day that you had me?
yeah,
Was
I think you were born at 4 p.m.
Oh wow, 4 p.m. Huh?
Yeah, and I had a pretty easy labor for being such a big baby. I think I was only in labor for about 5 hours total.
Wow.
So, but I mean, it was hard and really painful. But when it's your first baby, you
Yeah.
don't really know any different.
Yeah.
But I just remember with you being so big, and then in the nursery when we were looking at the babies, there's like a bunch of 5-pound babies, and then there's you.
Like, which one of those is? Oh yeah, the monster over there.
You look so big, and you didn't even fit into hardly any of the newborn clothes. It was just funny.
That's awesome. And then a few years later, like 5 years later, then you had Andy.
Yeah. By this time now, we'd moved to Auburn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So, yeah. And I was just talking to my friend Leah about this. She takes credit. They take credit for introducing Dad and I to each other,
That's awesome.
And they're still married, her and Marty. She was dating Marty when I met her. So they're still married.
Jeez.
And so she was just saying that she takes credit for that. And but I was reminding her that when I was in Auburn, you were maybe 3 or 4 or something like that. I took a trip by myself to go visit Leah and Marty. I wanted to go to Phoenix and see her, and I wanted to have a little trip by myself, and I worked some overtime so I could earn extra money.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there without Dad. It was shocking that I did something like this. And I went to...
You left me with Dad?
Yes. So I went to visit her, and her son was only about 1 year old, and he was in the crib. And all of a sudden, I got baby fever.
Oh, boy.
I did not think I would. I just kind of
And
thought
here comes Andy.
I just thought we were going to have one kid, and I got baby fever hard. As soon as I got back from that trip,
This stuff's real.
I said, I think we should have another baby. And so
when you moved up north from Centralia up to Auburn, you're inching closer to Seattle, but you're like, you put on the brakes.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, we're stopping at Auburn. And you were working as a waitress for a while, and then you got a job at Boeing.
yeah.
How long did you end up working at Boeing? Like all together, all the different divisions and stuff like that?
Yeah. When I retired, I think I had maybe about 33 and a half years in.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like people change jobs sometimes, like,
Yeah.
a couple times in a year.
Yeah. I just had this job as a waitress at a mall at an Italian restaurant. And there was a guy that came in there and drank Manhattans and had a meatball sandwich for lunch, and
Sounds
he's like a
awesome.
Boeing manager, and he's coming in there drinking at lunchtime. That was back in the day. This was 1978.
That's awesome.
That's how people were back then.
Oh, good old days.
They went out and drank at lunch. So I heard him talking to another waitress that he was going to help get her a job at Boeing, and I didn't even know what Boeing was.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just thinking.
I mean, you know what airplanes are, but not Boeing. Like,
and so I didn't really know anything about it. And so I started saying, well, could you maybe get me a job there? And he said, well, can you type? And I said, yeah. So he set up so that I arranged so that I would go take a typing test. And then I got a couple of interviews.
Nice.
And then I got hired, and that's how that started. So I started out as a clerk typist.
That's awesome.
For $5 an hour.
Damn. Yeah, you definitely worked your way up the ladder. Remember when I used to call you? And again, this is still pre-cell phone. And I'd be like, you're like, okay, here's my work number, but don't call this unless it's an emergency. So here I am just calling it. You'd pick up and go, business management, Tina. And I go, business management, Tina. And you're like, what is it? Hey, Mom, can we, whatever, can we go to blah, blah, blah? Or like, and then the next one was,
but you didn't hardly ever call
no,
me
we
at
didn't
work.
call all the time,
No.
but like, it was like,
Yeah.
you know, hey,
Yeah.
we're going to go to the river or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then then the next one was, 767 AWACS, Tina. It's so great. I love doing those. And then like, I would just mock you and you're like,
Right.
yes. What is it? Come on, hurry up. I'm actually kind of busy right now.
Yeah, I would say that, and then you would repeat it back.
Yeah.
You know, I'd go 767 AWACS, Tina, and then you'd go 767 AWACS, Tina. You know, so
It's awesome.
I'd know right away who it was.
But so moving on to just like general kind of things, like I always admired your honesty as far as like once you told me that you wished that you would have waited to have kids so you could have experienced like college and more of your life and traveled more and like done more kind of things like that. And I like that. It's funny because like it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh no, you weren't an accident. No, mommy loves you. I'm like, yeah, I get it. You love him, but you know, how many kids are accidents? It's got to be like 80% of kids are like, I mean, when you think about it, seriously, like it's got to be a lot, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like one of those things where it's like, don't worry about hurting someone's feelings. Like tell them, I don't know. I guess it depends on how sensitive people are or like.
You two were totally planned, though. You know,
I remember you often said this. You're like, I wanted to wait. Your dad, he's the one that wanted a kid like right away.
As soon as, you know, I got married when I was 19. You know, I mean, I didn't really expect that, but he really just, he was just insistent. And sometimes
I gave in.
I know. Sometimes I think, wow, I gave it so little thought to just a lifetime decision. I ended up marrying him and then he was pushing for having kids and I held him off for a while, you know. But then he just said, I want to have a son so I can enjoy him and before I'm too old. So I kind of gave in and, you know, and so you guys were definitely planned because I am a planner. I don't do things, well, other than get married at 19. I don't do things, you know.
Gotcha. Well, you know, I have another story. I don't even know if I've ever told you this story, but this is kind of funny. So this goes along with the same lines as like, you're being honest and everything. And this one time, my buddy, you remember good old Neil Borquin?
Yeah.
So Neil and we had this contest and I was telling him, I go, dude, our parents are a lot different, man. They are so different. I can ask you like anything, like, and you told me, you're like, if you need to know anything, just let me know. There's no off limits. Just tell me. And it's like, so we're going to test this theory out. We go over to Neil's place. We go over to his mom, Margie's house. And this is so great. So we wanted to see what the reaction of both moms would be. So Neil goes first. And the rule was you have to ask the same exact question in the same manner. Because, you know, you don't want it to be a joke. You want to ask like the same question at the same way. So he goes up to his mom and he goes, hey mom, what's a yeast infection? And she goes, oh man, did she flip out on him? She flipped her shit. She's like, she shook her head and started coming at him like she was gonna beat the shit out of him.
What?
And she told him to shut up. And she chased us out of the thing. And then at that point, Neil starts laughing. He's like, ah! And we start running. And then, so we're on the way to our place. You're like laughing your ass off. So we're on our way over to my place, and we walk in. You're like in the kitchen or something like that, and I don't know where Dad is, like fishing or something like that. Same question, but very
was Neil
different
with
response.
you?
Yes, that was the rules. He had to be. I was next to him.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes, I mean, how are you going to prove that this is like a true?
Right.
So we go up, and I'm like. hey mom, what's a yeast infection? And you come over and you're like, well, a yeast infection is when, and I'm like, and we're both like, whoa, we were not expecting this. And we're kind of like looking at each other like, oh shit, we don't really want to hear what this is, but you're like literally like, and you're kind of like leaning over, kind of like, okay, well, like tilting your head like, yeah, so it's basically when, and we're like, oh, so that was kind of funny. I always like that story.
That's hilarious. I never heard that story.
Isn't that funny?
That is so funny. Wow.
Most of the memories I have going back to talk about Grandma, your mom, Muggs. I love that nickname, Muggs.
Yeah.
One of them that always makes me smile is, because it always confused the hell out of us, was the one, and I've told this story to you like before, but it's just so funny to me, is we were back visiting. It had to be like 91 or something maybe. And I'm just watching TV, and she's like doing something in the kitchen. And goes, "Hey, can you grab a gallon of milk down from the fridge downstairs?" And I go, "Yeah." And I literally pop up, and I run past her down the stairs, and I go down, and I get the mini fridge, the little mini fridge down there, grab the milk, run back up, bring it to her, and I set it right on the counter. And as I'm walking off, she actually under her breath goes, "Lazy goddamn kids," and I'm like, "What the?" And I almost turned around. I was like, did you just say? I couldn't have gone any faster than what I actually did.
Are you sure you immediately popped up and went down there?
It was hilarious, though. I wasn't mad. I was amazed. It was awesome. But I don't know. It was just funny. Like she would always do kind of like funny things like that. She would sometimes. She would talk under like her breath. Like,
yeah, she would kind of mutter. Yeah.
It was hilarious.
And just say, I don't know.
But do you remember that one time?
That is weird.
It was originally funny, but then it didn't end up being funny. But the one time that she kept pointing something out on the road, and we were driving by, and this had to be the early 2000s. And we're driving by this thing. She goes, "Yeah, that's where they're doing the blah blah blah," and then the next time we're on the way back, she points it out again, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I look at Andy and I was like, she literally just said that like 5 minutes ago or whatever,
Yeah.
And then we're making another errand. We go back, I don't know, a couple hours later, and she points it out again. And then I kind of I did one of those where I just looked at Andy and I go, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
Like she said the same exact thing.
I'm sure when that was the summer of 2001. We were back visiting that summer.
It was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, it was like really funny, like the second time she did it, but then like when she did it right away, like again, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then...
That was the summer when I first noticed her being forgetful, and she had all these Post-it notes everywhere.
Oh,
just
wow.
like, what's up with the Post-it notes? And she's like, well, we're just getting older, and we're forgetful, and I don't want to forget things. Well, that was a big change. That was weird. And, and I was noticing
Dub's
how...
still sharp, man.
Right, I was noticing how forgetful she was about everything. And that was 2001. Then I saw her in 2002 when Dad and I went to Canada fishing with them. We went for a week walleye fishing up in Canada.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't seen her in a year, and now she's really bad. She's very thin, very out of it. She didn't even hardly react when she saw me get off the plane.
Oh my God.
I know she knew who I was, but she didn't act excited like she would normally. She just seemed like a different person and very subdued and quiet. And sometimes she'd be standing there talking to you, and then you turn around and she had gone into the bedroom and was sleeping. So in that trip, everyone, the whole family was talking about it like, wow, something's wrong with her. And I said to Dad, when you get back, you got to take her to a doctor.
Jeez.
And then when he got back, he took her to a neurologist. Then she got diagnosed with vascular dementia. So it wasn't Alzheimer's, but the dementia was caused by her having all these little mini strokes. Jeez. So she wasn't having a major stroke so that you could tell she had a stroke. She's having mini strokes, and they call them the silent stroke. So that just kept destroying more and more of her brain and causing dementia symptoms of forgetfulness and other things. And so I guess if you're going to have to die of dementia, you don't want Alzheimer's. They say you can live with that for 10 years, and your family and you are suffering for 10 years. She was gone within a year of being diagnosed. So she kept having these mini strokes, and that went faster than.
You always feel bad for the people around too, like Grandpa, like seeing that. Like,
yeah, he was
terrible.
Her main caregiver for several months.
So horrible.
He was afraid to, leave her alone, and so he wasn't going anywhere, and he really wasn't. I don't know. He just wasn't getting much help. We were trying to talk to him about that, but at the very end, I think maybe for a month, she ended up having to go into a nursing home because she fell in the middle of the night.
Jesus.
And he's like, I don't think I can deal with this now.
Right.
Things are too serious. And then she was gone within a month.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
God. Jeez.
I know, she was only 74 when she died. So here, look at your grandpa. He's 90 now.
Right. That's nuts.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Or are they the same age or?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's not end it on this note, Jesus. Rest in peace, God. But I always admired how, speaking of moms, how you managed to always work full-time and you're raising kids, doing the shopping, and then almost every night you're like cooking. Like, it's pretty well. I get home and I'm like, oh, Jesus, I just want to, that's it. I'm out. Like, I just want to go home and just, so I'll just chill, man. But some of my favorite memories were like pizza nights and watching all those comedy specials. Big fan of comedy specials in our house.
Yeah. Or just movies in general.
Yeah, like
we love
scary
to watch
movies and
anything like that.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I liked when you'd be like, so I took today off today, Josh. And I'm like, ooh. And I'm like, automatically it'd be like, we going to the lake? And you're like, we're going to the lake. And I'm like,
yes.
I love going to the lake.
I remember.
And that depressed me, by the way, last time I was up in Seattle. It's been years now, but they took out the docks.
Yeah.
And I loved the docks.
At 5 Mile Lake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah.
I know. I remember.
Or Enchanted Village. You'd take us to Enchanted Village.
I always felt bad that you guys had to, because I was working full time, that you didn't get to do that many fun things during the summer. So I remember taking a day of vacation every now and then so that we could go to the lake and just,
I mean, I was at the river all the time.
Do something fun.
Yeah. But something like the lake is a little different. You know, going to Wild Waves, a little different,
Yeah.
So I do want to bring up football with you. So Dad is responsible for teaching me, the sport of football. Took me to games, watched with me on TV and stuff like that.
Took you to the draft.
Yeah. I loved going to the draft.
All kinds of stuff.
And I remember having beers and stuff during the games, and we'd play catch and watch them like punt balls and so on. But when it comes to being a hardcore Seahawks fan, you definitely take that crown, and you still do, in my opinion, because I've never seen anybody so loud and passionate about the Seahawks. I don't care what anybody says. Like, if they say they're a Seahawks fan, I'm like, oh, no. My mom, like back when we sucked, would be cheering for if they weren't blacked out on TV. She'd be like, cheering for the Seahawks. I still remember that when Chuck and I, a few years ago, we ran into Dave Craig. And Dave Craig, I had to tell him the story about, he was the quarterback of the Seahawks back in the 80s and early 90s. But I had to tell him this story about when he had this game where he was having a shitty game. He was getting sacked. He got sacked like 7 times. It was like a record, an NFL record. He got sacked that many times, right? But he came back and he threw a touchdown at the very end of the game to Paul Scansey. And you like screamed so loud, I thought I had to get my hearing checked. And I jumped up and I hit like my knuckles on the ceiling, and like my knuckles were bleeding, and you were just screaming like crazy, probably the cat running around, all of the poor animals like in the neighborhood are like like just going nuts. But I just thought it was like so funny, and I told him that story. And
you did?
Yeah, I told him that story. And
oh my gosh!
Yeah, it was awesome. Like that was one of my highlights of.
I've just always loved football. I mean, growing up in Wisconsin, of course, I was a Packer fan, and I still think of myself as a Packer fan.
Yeah.
I root for the Packers unless they're playing the Seahawks.
Right.
But we're living in Washington State.
Well, and it was the new team. Like
right.
they just
all
came
of
to town.
All of a sudden, they create create a new team in 1976, the Seahawks. So we start.
Yep, you're starting a family.
Right.
You're starting Yep.
We start watching them.
I was born a
And,
Seahawks fan.
You know, I just loved, Zorn and Largent, and
Largent. Don't even sugarcoat that one.
Oh God, yeah.
You would have left Dad for Largent.
I think I would have. I think Dad would have given me a hall pass for Steve Largent.
That's great.
He was great.
So, he looked like like a William Catt or like one of those guys.
He was so cute, and plus he was talented and caught every
charming,
pass that
very
came
charming.
near him. Yeah, he was a good guy. Yeah. See you, Lee. I'm going off with
See ya, sucker. He's like, Dad's like,
yeah.
I wish I could be mad. I wish I could be mad.
Nope, I think he would have given me a hall pass, no doubt. So yeah, I love football, and I can't help myself. I just get so into the game. I scream whether we have a good play or whether we have a bad play, and I'm just screaming.
And it's funny too, because it's not like you're screaming with a big crowd of people. You're in like the house with like Dad or like Andy or
and the poor dog.
Yeah, the dogs. They don't even know what the hell's going on. They're like, what? What the hell's going on? Like, is there some attacker in here?
Yeah,
like,
I scare the hell out of the dog. He's looking at me like I'm crazy. Well, but remember, there were quite a few years that I went to the Seahawk games with Aunt March.
Right, yeah.
So I did go to a lot of the games. She would buy season tickets and have two, and then she couldn't find any. Her family wasn't really into football.
Yeah.
And she was older.
She was hardcore,
man. She was older.
She's into the Huskies and the Seahawks.
Yes, she was
a
very big football fan, but her family wasn't. So she would try to ask. Lee is her nephew.
Right.
And
we were more close with Aunt Marge, great Aunt Marge.
Yeah.
Than my own grandma. Because she lived in the area. Yeah. So like we'd always go over there. So
right. Yeah.
and she was
went
family.
Over to her house for holidays, but she would ask Dad to go to the Seahawk game, and he's like, I'm not gonna go to the game. It's too much trouble. I can't smoke there, and he had all of his reasons why he couldn't do it. So I'd go with Marge, and it was a big thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work. Especially if you're not like. It's kind of like a young man's game. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of work if you're like walking a long ways and you're not drinking. It's like it's a different experience. Well, and I remember I went with Marge a few times, so like it's way different.
Yeah, in the later years, we're taking the bus there. Yeah, and then she has a walker.
Yeah, I remember one time she like she put this like big army blanket over my shoulder so she could like keep. So I'm like carrying this like army blanket, and I'm carrying this portable TV. And it was the first time I went to a Husky game, and I'm walking, and I'm like, I don't know, I've never been here.
The seats are way up there.
She takes the elevator, so like she's in the elevator. They wouldn't let me go with her. So like, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how to get around here. And I look up the stands, and those stairs they go straight up. So I'm like, I don't know where I'm going, and I'm like 4 or 15 or something like.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, it was like so crazy. I was like, and like everyone's, that was like when the Huskies were like really good too. It's like the whole place is like shaking. It's like, so I don't know. It was crazy. But does it upset you that neither of your two sons have been married or have had kids by this time?
Wow.
You like that one?
No, it doesn't upset me. I think I don't know if I'm surprised by it because,
because we grew up in a stable family and like,
well,
or what?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I do see more of your generation either not getting married or putting it off a lot later. I have so many friends that I went to high school with that, you know what's funny? Have been grandparents several times by now, and so that the fact that you guys have never even been married is a little interesting, but it doesn't upset me.
You know what I've noticed though? Like I've noticed that a lot of people that come from broken families want to correct that part of their life, and then and this is not everybody, but like then they have a family, and then they make a stable, nice family. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, Dad always says that about me.
Oh, really?
When he met me and got to know me a little bit, he's like, this is the one I'm going to marry.
Damn.
He was looking for stability and so he knew right away that he wanted to marry me, I guess.
So, I love talking about music. I remember, just always quizzing you about songs that came up back in the day, and you're like, okay,
I don't know when this came out. Yes, I've heard it. Can we stop playing this game?
Right. Why would you keep asking me, what's the name of the song, Mom?
Yeah, I'm like, hey, Mom, you remember the song? You're like,
I don't know. I can already tell you I don't know. I don't remember names of songs.
But I always remember the songs.
Out.
I always know the songs that you loved.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like, that's always been my technique or my skill or my one of the things that I'm good at. You know, I won't remember other crap, but I'll know that you love Queen, like Killer Queen or Color My World was your high school song or, you know, like all these like different like songs that you love.
Right.
I don't know. It's just like one of those things where like, I remember, I will never forget, we were listening to, I think we were on the way to the lake or something like that. And we heard this song and I turn to you and I go, is that weird? You just like hear a song and it's like, it's one of these things where you just know it's a hit. Like, it's like it's almost like I could have been like one of those music executives where you like sit in a room, kind of like a Clive Davis kind of like deal, where you like sit in a room and you're like, that sounds like a hit. Like to me, I hear a hit in my head. That sounds like a hit. I think that could be like something, but that's something that I got from Dad, clearly, not you.
Yeah.
Because it can annoy you.
Yeah, he's just, I like music.
Yeah.
He likes to say that I don't like music.
Right.
But compared to him, he's a fanatic and his passion is music.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't say that that's my passion, but I do love music, but you know, I'm more particular maybe than him.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's, again, I'm probably more like you in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like, I'm more responsible. Like I watch, you know, certain things and I'm particular. I wake up early in the morning
except for music, you definitely picked up on that from Dad. But yes, our personalities are probably more similar.
Right.
No doubt about it.
You have to tell me one more story about the time that Dad tried to kill me with an apple.
What? What are you talking about?
You said that he was feeding me an apple one time.
I had some other kind of vision in my head, like what? Killing you with an apple.
He pinned you against a wall and tried to throw apples at you? And no.
I think you were just a toddler, and you were eating a little piece of an apple. And it got stuck.
I like how I'm like eating an apple.
Well, just a little piece. Okay. You're not just having the whole apple.
Shouldn't it be apple sauce or something like that at this point?
Well, you weren't a baby.
Okay,
you were a toddler.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we probably should have cut it smaller or something. You know, hey, you're still alive, Josh. We did okay. You know, like we didn't.
So what happened? So like this got lodged in my throat?
Yes, you were choking. And that was one of those moments where you don't know how you'll react. I just think that I would have been the type of person that would have just jumped into action and known what to do. But I panicked. And and luckily Dad was
Didn't you say I was like turning colors?
Dad was right there. You were clearly choking. And I'm just panicking. And I'm going, Lee's choking. And then he just took control and, I don't know if he did like the Heimlich or if he actually reached down.
No, you said he finally reached down. Like he goes,
yeah.
You're like, look, we did everything we could. And then, what you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
That was the last resort. We're reaching down your throat.
That is what he did. And they got it out. And so.
Jesus.
So
well, I'm here, I guess.
You owe your dad for that one. I was just sitting there panicking, doing nothing.
Wait. I owe Dad, but he's the one that gave me the apple? The piece of the apple?
I don't know who gave you the apple.
Oh, okay. So it could have been you.
It could have been me.
You're like, postpartum, okay? Anyway. All right, well, Mom, it's been awesome having you on the show. I hope this wasn't as scary as you thought it would be originally.
I was terrified.
I know. You're like, oh, God, what are you going to say? What are we going to do?
You didn't give me a copy of the questions you're going to ask. I didn't have
Hell no. I want it to be organic.
I didn't have any prep time.
Exactly.
Nothing. This was all just.
And you did good.
And I had no idea. What is he going to ask me?
Yeah. You did well.
Was, when you've never done something like this, it is a little bit terrifying. Like, oh boy. What are we going to talk about?
Well, obviously there's a million more stories that we can discuss because, I lived and grew up in the same household with you. So
we've got lots of stories we could tell.
So I thank you. I love you.
I love you too. You've been a
And
wonderful son. I don't want to get too sappy.
I want you to have a great Mother's Day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks for being on the show. Talk to you later.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends podcast. If you have any questions or comments about today's show, feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. If you enjoyed listening to the podcast, please share away. And make sure you give me a like or a good review. I can always use the help. I'm Josh, and thank you for being a friend.